Israel launched the largest military operation in the occupied West Bank in at least 20 years today, with airstrikes and deadly ground raids in what the government calls a large-scale counterterrorism operation. Palestinian health authorities say at least 9 people were killed. Israel's foreign minister said the operation was part of a, quote, full-fledged war, and that the IDF was stamping out Iranian terrorist infrastructures. Meanwhile, the Bedouin father of 11, who was held hostage for 326 days before being rescued from a Hamas tunnel yesterday, left the hospital today. A little bit of good news there. Joining us now is retired Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. Thank you for being with us. We keep saying this is a region on edge and tensions keep flaring, but it's been somewhat contained despite that. Do you see this as maintaining this current level of simmering containment, or are we headed somewhere else?
I think we're going to be okay, okay being defined as this is not going to explode into a wider war, Katy. But the operations now being conducted in the West Bank kind of draw a line under the fact that Israel is facing terrorism from Hamas in Gaza, from Hezbollah to the north, and all the way from down in the Red Sea by Houthis. This is yet another axis of threat for the Israelis. And the second point to be made here is the Iranian connection. Looming over all of these threats to Israel is the specter of Iran. And that, I think, is why the Israelis are very focused on getting into the West Bank and rooting it out to the degree they can.
What is the, I guess, political damage of them doing this? I understand they're arguing there is a safety need to go in there, but what is the political damage of them doing this at this moment?
It's tactically significant. What I mean by that is, even as the Biden administration continues to try with immense energy to get these ceasefire talks landed, here's yet another obstacle that'll be thrown in the face of it. Because let's face it, Katy, you can get to a ceasefire conceivably in Gaza, but step 2 is governance, is turning it over to somebody. That's ultimately got to be the Palestinian Authority. And when you're the Israelis and you're attacking inside the West Bank against targets in the vicinity of the Palestinian Authority, just going to be much more difficult to breathe life into the ceasefire and, above all, to get to that next step beyond the initial ceasefire.
How do you read Benjamin Netanyahu right now? There are folks within Israel, former prime ministers, who are writing really scathing op-eds saying that he doesn't want a ceasefire. He wants this to erupt into a wider war because he wants to be seen as the Winston Churchill of Israel. They say that his future and his ambitions are so tied to this war that he can't be trusted to be in charge of it.
I agree with that assessment, which is to say, from all that I can see, what Benjamin Netanyahu has done initially responding to the attacks against Hamas, quite understandable. But the way in which this now goes on and on and on, the level of strikes, for example, launched against Hezbollah to the north, 100 Israeli aircraft pounding away up there. Add to that going into the West Bank in the middle of what ought to be a period to try and close the ceasefire. When you put all that together, that's not the defiance of a Winston Churchill. That's somebody looking for a fight. And I think it is tied to domestic political concerns and legal ones that the prime minister has.
So Ehud Olmert, one of the former prime ministers, I'll bring up his op-ed in particular, is arguing that Netanyahu is so not to be trusted and will not come to a ceasefire agreement. And because of that, what needs to happen is that his government needs to step down. And these are the people that you wouldn't want to step down. He wants Yoav Gallant to step down. He wants Benny Gantz to step down, walk away from the government to, I guess, make a point to the Israeli public that this isn't working any longer and to put Benjamin Netanyahu under more duress. Is that a good idea given who he's currently aligned himself with already? That is the far, far right in Israel?
I think that ultimately the Netanyahu government is going to fall. Benny Gantz has already left it. I know him well. He was their chief of defense when I was in charge of U.S.-Israeli military-to-military cooperation. He's already voted with his feet. I think the key individual that the former prime minister is really directing this toward is Yoav Gallant, the current minister of defense, former chief of the IDF. I think it is getting very close to time for him to step away. And yeah, the point is well taken. Won't that simply play into the hands of the right wing? I don't think so. We won't know, Katy, until the Knesset comes back from its break, probably toward the end of September. So we've got a month to continue to watch this bubble.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We'll watch and see what happens next.